as authors, social media is like the place where we connect with our audience. And so it's really tough to be like, well, I don't support this company or anything that they're saying or doing.
It's also an organizing and community building tool. And like, are we supposed to just give that up? That feels disempowering. So
yeah, they need us there to be really obnoxious about our political beliefs.
Where do the quiet gays? Where are the quiet gays supposed to go?
Hey guys, welcome to the Lesbian Book Club, and we have two very special guests today. If you were around during the holidays, you might have read the Christmas pick with us, and we have the co-authors of the Christmas pick with us today. We have Rena Sapon-White and Ella Schaefer, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about them, and then we'll actually talk to them, okay? But we're really excited that they're here. So, Rena Sapon-White is an LA-based author and filmmaker, a Dartmouth film graduate. She has directed award-winning documentaries and produced festival favorites like Summer '03 in 2018 and Only in 2019. She has also produced several made-for-TV holiday rom-coms, including the upcoming Lifetime original Christmas on the Alpaca Farm 2024. Maybe not upcoming anymore. Her debut novel, The Christmas Pick, combines her story crafting expertise with her passion for exploring queer themes and complex characters. When she's not behind the camera or keyboard, Rita can be found exploring California's wild landscapes with her dog or jumping into the ocean to encounter its myriad sea creatures. And Ella Schaefer is a writer and dog mom originally from Niceville, Florida. Yep, real place. Ella's brain trends toward wildly imaginative premises grounded in the reality of funny, effed up female protagonists who are failing to flourish. She also loves alliteration. She has recently partnered with Real One Entertainment and Fireside Pictures to write TV rom-coms. After work, you can find her reading her own low-performing tweets, her own words, or watching tennis, even though she's literally never played a day in her life. Her debut
also,
novel...
I need to amend this. I'm not on Twitter anymore. I need to delete my account, but I'm not on Twitter. Okay, don't worry.
No more Twitter for Ella Schaefer.
Okay. Twitter, I know where I'm with Twitter and is not being on Twitter. So
you guys, I can't give it up. I can't do it. I have curated my Twitter feed since I was in 6th grade when you still sent in your tweets via text message. I can't give it up, you guys.
You sent in tweets via text message?
Oh, sweet Haley. We're already here. We're already at the point in the podcast where Haley is too young to remember these things. Yes, you would send them in. It was like 020202 or something like that. And you would send in your tweet and then it would publish it. Yes, Haley's
something new every day.
But you know what, Ella, your resolve is higher than mine. So I can't give it up. I can't do it.
I get it. I wasn't that close to Twitter.
Okay.
Blue Sky is different. So, it's a different app. And I'm still getting used to it and getting it back to where we were with like Threads and everything. Although I do like Threads, there's a nice book community on Threads, so I'm kind of always like interacting on there. And I'll be back tomorrow, the 26th of January.
Perfect.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. We're really happy that you're here, and we're excited to talk about your book.
Yes, I have a question really quick based on your guys' like intros. What's your guys' zodiac? I feel like there's a Pisces in the room here somewhere.
I am a Cancer Sun, Pisces Moon, and Aquarius Rising.
Rena, I'm a Capricorn Sun, so sister sign, Pisces Moon, Aquarius Rising.
Wow. And then guess who's an Aquarius Sun?
Oh, it's got to be Ella. Yeah. I could have called that a mile away.
What Aquarius Sun?
I don't know. This is your job.
You always have to check co-stars. You're an Aries Moon.
Oh, I can't.
Oh man. And
oh man.
On post.
No, I did.
Oh, you did. Okay. Well, we're gonna find out.
Aries Moon people are some of my favorite people. Wait, a what rising?
She's either Aries Moon or Aries Rising. I don't remember. Let's see. I got you. Shay. Oh, okay. Aquarius, Virgo moon, Aries rising.
Oh, okay.
So
A little complicated, a little overachiever.
Very problematic, erratic, hard to deal with, a lot to deal with.
Wow.
Also a genius, so that's why she's
But also a genius.
I mean, any Lin-Manuel Miranda, I'm pretty sure is like a triple Virgo, and like Virgo sun, Virgo moon, Virgo rising, or something like that. So that tracks for a little bit crazy, but very talented.
Exactly.
See, that's all you need to know about me.
Yeah, pretty. We're done here.
And cut. Okay, awesome. So I went to the book launch of the Christmas pick, and it was such a beautiful space. Everyone was asking questions. I loved the space you guys hosted it at. And you, yes, the Black Cat. Thank you. Shout out,
it's
Black
like
Cat.
historically a lesbian bar, right?
A gay bar.
Gay bar. Okay,
yeah. But
yeah, we don't have a lot of lesbian bar spaces, unfortunately, and one of them just closed down due to the fire.
Donate to the like employee fund of the Ruby Fruit.
The Ruby Fruit, yes. We'll put
they have like a GoFundMe. If you look it up or go to their Instagram, you can find it. But.
Yes, perfect. We can put a link in our description below because I've been there multiple times. It's such a good space for creatives, for just anyone in the queer community. But it was like one of our only lesbian bars in LA, and unfortunately heavily impacted by the wildfires. But your guys' book launch, I loved what Rena, you read a passage, and I would love to kick us off, especially in the times that we are now. I would love if you could read that for us.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wait, should we preface with our book came out a week after the election?
Yeah. This launch took place on like the evening of November 14th. The book officially released on the 15th. And so, yeah, it was a really, it had been a pretty dark 10 days.
We were on opposite sides of the country, but we were like up together all night and on the phone with her mom.
Yeah, on election night, just sort of watching it all happen. Yeah. And we didn't really think about like the timing. Obviously, you know when the election's happening, but like we didn't really like conceive like a relationship between the date of the release of our book and like what it would feel like if the election did not go.
Our book, mind you, that is considered pornography in Project 2025.
Yeah,
wonderful.
You're welcome. But anyway, yeah. So I wrote this little. I just wrote this little opener for the book release. I'll just read it off my Google Doc. All right. Well, I thanked everybody who gave to our amazing fundraiser for the LA LGBT Center, which is also doing great wildfire relief stuff if you want to check them out. All right. I was looking for a poem that I could open with tonight, something that would accurately reflect the times we're living in and then magically prime us all with hope. But I struggled to find the right one. I found myself exasperated because each piece I read was either utterly accurate and therefore devastating, or hopeful and therefore glib. But then I had a moment of clarity, that the greatest source of hope right now wasn't going to be found in poetry at all, but in the presence of everyone gathered in this room tonight. I find my hope in these moments, in the way that friends and neighbors and kindred spirits come together to make an evening like this possible, in the generous offering of time and talent, mic stands and pep talks, all to create this space where we can be joyous and supportive and hopeful together. I find hope in the simple power of us showing up for one another. The Christmas pick is set in Harmony Springs, Michigan, a fictional queer town that celebrates Christmas year-round, and it began as the dream of a world my co-author Ella and I wanted to escape into. What we didn't expect was that it would become a bridge to this world, bringing us closer to all of you here tonight, to the queer lit community online, and to readers all over whose early reviews of our book have affirmed that the fictional realms we conjure can have a tangible impact on our lives. Thank you for being here, for creating this moment of community together and helping usher the spirit of Harmony Springs off the page and into the world. The end.
Thank you, Rena.
Yeah. That was so lovely. I wasn't there, so.
You were there in spirit.
Yeah, Ella was there in spirit.
I told her to FaceTime me and she didn't.
I was waiting the whole night for the FaceTime, and I was like, okay. I like texted you, and I was like, hello.
I was literally like in bed, and I was like, well, Rena, I'm going to bed now.
Sure.
Like 1 a.m. I was
The
like,
following night, you didn't FaceTime me.
well, it's because you didn't FaceTime me first.
Rumble in paradise.
Don't mess with the Virgo moon and Aries rising, because they will win that battle. Your Pisces moon can't stand it.
Sorry. You were the woman.
Debatable. We'll see. We'll ask the court later.
This is how we need to write from now on. We'll have Lauren in the room.
Oh, I can help. I'll help you guys. I'll be a mediator. Be like, so actually. Okay, well, we just have a bunch of questions for you guys if you're open to answering. And yeah, we loved your book. It was such a nice like break from heaviness. I think it was just a happy, like very, I think in the podcast we said like how much of like a Hallmark movie book this is. And your guys' background, do you both work for Hallmark or just one of you?
So not quite. So Ella and I met like 3 years ago. I was working as like a development exec and a producer for like a company that made movies, a production company that like developed and produced movies and then licensed them to Hallmark, Lifetime, Tubi, Amazon, all over the place. So Hallmark was one of the clients, but it was more broadly just like the TV movie rom-com world, which now encapsulates like a few different channels and networks and streamers and stuff like that. And Ella was one of the writers that I ended up sort of pulling into my stable of writers there. And we started working on a TV movie rom-com, which is really, really cute. And the rights will revert back to us in a little while. As happens in the whole film industry, like projects just end up in development hell for any number of reasons. So that one TBD, but it brought us together and it was part of what made us realize that we loved collaborating. And now we just do everything together. So we're not sort of in those same like producer writer roles. We're sort of each wearing like 30 hats at once.
Yeah, she like literally lives with me now.
I have been living with Ella for the last 2 weeks to get away from LA and the terrible fires. And it's been really fun.
She thinks she's leaving tomorrow.
I do think I'm leaving tomorrow.
Also TBD.
Yeah, I guess maybe we'll circle back.
Remember, I went.
Yeah, right. Ella's like, please stay with me. Ella, where are you located right now?
I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very chill. Everybody, they call it the land of mañana because everybody just like puts things off to the next day, which I really vibe with. Actually, that's why I really challenge.
To say, maybe it's like an aspirational vibe.
Yeah. Aspirationally, I think as a city in general, having that vibe is nice because it's not like LA where it just feels like if you're not hustling and working on whatever it is that you're there to work on, then you're like wasting time and somebody's gonna beat you to it. And it's just like the competitiveness of the city that I have been relieved from a little bit by being in a different place.
Yeah, I do. I almost think if you're like very type A, which both of us are, like sort of perfectionist, like if you already have this like clenching like drive all the time, it's living in a place where that's also like the vibe of the environment can be pretty draining. I find my pocket of LA to be pretty calm when there's not things on fire, but I lived in New York for 4 years beforehand, and God bless New York City. I love it there, but I did that. That's a place that was like too high octane for how high octane my internal life.
Oh my God. I would not do well in New York City.
There's intensity all the time.
Yeah. I like to visit New York, but I would not want to live there.
I make the mistake of going to visit for my birthday every year. I'm not doing it this year but I did it for like 5 separate years or something. And it's like January in New York is the worst time to go to New York. It's
Absolutely
disgusting,
not.
honestly.
I get cold when it's under 65, so hell no, I'm not going to January.
It has been a really big adjustment for me to live in Albuquerque. Although, you know, the sun is out a lot, but it does get very cold because we're high elevation. This is all very interesting. But it snowed the other day and I was loving it. It was really nice.
Honestly, the only thing you really need to know about Ella is that she's so cold all the time, and I am so overheated all the time.
Yeah.
And it's actually the most incompatible thing about us.
Yep. I'm always hot as well, so I get it. I feel like Haley, you're more cold all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess maybe
it's key to having an incredible dynamic.
That's the balance.
Yeah.
Exactly. What kind of got you guys into writing this specific book? Why Christmas? Why this very I mean, obviously there's conflict in the book, but like very happy-go-lucky book.
Yeah, I mean, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier when we met doing these made-for-TV movies, we really like they're really cute and you can make them well and make good movies. Like places like Hallmark are getting better about inclusion. I don't think they're like fully there yet, but they're getting better about it. And, you know, sometimes they're still a little corny, but like they fill a certain gap in the market that isn't really, you know, nobody's making like really good LGBT content. Like you look for a lesbian Christmas movie and like you find some on some websites. I mean, I haven't watched the movies yet, but like, you know, they're like pretty low budget. And we were just like working on ours and thinking we're making these straight movies and rom-coms on this kind of budget. So what's stopping us from doing something that we actually want to see? And so I had that script. The Christmas Pig was a script first, and I'd had it for like years. It was kind of my first dive into writing a rom-com. And, you know, for specifically like, you know, Lifetime or Hallmark or whatever. And it was very straight. It was very, like, very, very different from what it ended up being in the book. But Rena and I had been working together, and it was a script that I had. And, you know, we were talking with some producers to get it made. And it was funny because the original version, the man was the CEO, and it was just like a little generic for you know, the rom-com world, as it were. And so we were like, well, what if we make it a little more us? Like, what if we turn this into a female CEO and the guy is the photographer? And so we did that, and then we started getting feedback, super shocking feedback, honestly, that Ava was unlikable. And
we had literally not changed the CEO character. If anything,
we made her nicer.
When we switched the genders in this original version, like she got softer, warmer, because she had become like the female lead protagonist instead of like, you know, in those really like gendered movies, like there's very specific roles that like the male lead and the female lead had. We had sort of accounted for that. And in our like, you know, vision of the movie, it was like, she's now the protagonist. Suddenly we were getting feedback we'd never heard about when it was a guy that was like, oh, she's unlikable, she's too harsh, like it's just, you know, she's not like soft enough for like a female romantic lead,
she's not aspirational.
And we were just like, why? First of all we were just like, well, we were just trying to like edge it up a little bit, but
the tiniest
confines like the sort of confines that you're under for making movies for those types of clients, we were just like, you know what, if this is the feedback we're getting and we're still trying to sort of play by the rules, like why don't we just tell the version of this movie that we actually want to see, like, which is, you know, like the gay version. And yeah, we sort of just came to the conclusion that like the fastest way to get that version of the story out there was to just self-publish our debut novel and sort of take a lesbian version of the script and sort of then like adapt it into prose form. And yeah, I think it was like it was sort of healing to just give ourselves permission to write that version, because I think for both of us spending so many years in, I know it's more general than this, but like I'm just going to call it like the Hallmark world, because I think people understand it through that lens, like working in that world. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's so fun to come up with romances, but I think one of the sort of challenges as a writer or a producer developing those stories is just you have so many rules and like confines that you have to sort of work within, and I think that can sort of generate more creativity sometimes as a writer or a creative, but also when you want to break some of the rules that feel more like arbitrary or like, heteronormative, you're still met with that type of resistance. And so it was just really nice after a lot of time of working in that box to still take the elements that we love from the Hallmark world, which is like the warmth and the promise of a happy ending, and like people are generally pretty good and well-intentioned. Like take those nice, warm, fuzzy things and just tell a queer story, because also, like Ella's saying, there's a lot of, there have been, lesbian Christmas movies in the last few years, some of which I've really enjoyed, but frequently, and this is just a problem with queer media in general and gay romances too, they're just like so fucking sad, or they always end up being about the coming out, and like that's the crux of the climax, as if queer people don't have anything else to have conflict about. And also as if like queer, and just frequently in lesbian movies especially, there's not a happy ending, and it makes me livid. I mean, this is why like we're doing everything we're doing. It's just like, why the hell can't queer people have like warmth and happiness and optimism, especially during times like right now where it's hard to see that in the world around us? Like we need art and media that demonstrates that it's possible, because I truly believe like the art we create is what paves the vision for people to like create that world, like I said in my book release opening, to bring that into reality. So anyway, that's my rant.
I second that. That's exactly what I was trying to say when I was saying it. So
I was like, what she said. No, you're absolutely right, especially when it comes to lesbian media, especially Christmas ones. I mean, we have the iconic Carol, which is a Christmas movie, but does not have a happy ending. And then you have media like Happiest Season, where I know a lot of people in the LGBTQ community kind of took a lot of issue with that movie. I mean, I loved it, but it's also I had a lot of issues with it as well. I was very at the beginning of it being like, yay, like, oh, this is so great. Kristen Stewart in a lesbian Christmas movie. Like, it's great. But the storyline was about the coming out, the tragedy, the heartbreak. And yeah, I love that your guys' book didn't focus on that. It just focused on regular plot issues. And it did have a happy ending, which I loved the ending. I talked about it in the podcast. I was like, yeah, we couldn't figure out how they were going to like end up being together, because Jo can't leave where she's been her whole life. It's the most perfect location for her, but how is Ava gonna leave her high powered thing and then for Ava to be the one that sacrifices? I just kind of reminded me of Bet and Tina at the end in Generation Q. I was like, oh, I just love it. It's nice to see kind of a little bit of role reversal, even though with lesbian relationships, it's not a lot of like gendered roles. We like to break out of that, but it was nice to see the high powered person in the book, give up a little bit and make the sacrifice and then be happy about it. So absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely couldn't have her still be a CEO, because
no,
we don't like those.
This is where we insert our hashtag eat the rich, but whatever.
I also love what you were talking about, Rena, about giving queer characters happy endings. That's something I wanted to talk to you guys about today, because I think you hit it on the nose about how giving people an example in the art that you make like allows them to see a path for themselves. And art, I think, is a resource, and you have done your part in like providing a resource in a very happy story. I loved it. It was very, very well done.
Thank you. That's such a
much.
good compliment.
You're welcome. You earned that. And I also wanted to ask you about, because you've alluded to this a little bit, and I think this is a really important thing to talk about. It's something that's been on my mind a lot. With Lauren and I have a lesbian podcast. There's so many openly queer artists and figures and people in this world that are on social media that have put themselves out there in front of people. You are two, people who have just published a lesbian book, and here we are in this political climate that has very quickly turned very scary for a lot of us, and we're living in this very uncomfortable, scary time where it feels uncertain. And so how are you feeling right now in the climate of our country as queer women who have put blatantly queer art in the world? And what is important to you about your art and making it in a time like this?
I was just going to say, we were like a mess after the election. So you can only imagine, we were like, oh, fuck. Am I allowed to curse on this podcast?
Of course. Yes, please do.
Fuckity fuck. We are putting out a gay ass book next week. What are we going to do? I feel like you're going to say something a lot more poignant than I was.
That was where we were at in that immediate aftermath. I think was just it. There was a lot of shock and
still shock every day.
I would say circumstances have gotten even more overtly worse than we could have. I don't want to say could have predicted. I think we could have predicted a lot of things, but things are objectively pretty bad. My perspective is very much shaped by being Jewish and being the descendant on both sides of my family of like Holocaust survivors, and a few people in my direct line who got the F out of Poland like 10 years beforehand because they saw what was coming. And so you
can say fuck.
I know. But you just said it so much. I want it to feel special when I use it. I don't know. I was raised by, Jewish parents who were just always very adamant to me that like the Jewish legacy in the world, in the civil rights movement, and to this day is to advocate for anyone who's being persecuted, and to also make sure that Holocaust genocide doesn't happen again. And with all of that in my head, I'm simultaneously like fucking terrified to be like living through this moment, and it feels surreal, and it does feel like, as much as you can look at the sort of domino effect and be like, this is how we ended up here, it's still a shock to the system. But at the same time, putting out like a queer story and being openly queer on social media, like I think that's the only way that I could live with myself during this time. And I am not denying that that's scary and not possible for lots of other people, but like I've seen a lot of people like quoting this from, I think it's a book called On Fascism, but I might be misquoting that. But just basically saying that like the biggest thing right now, if you're in a position of being like, what do I do? What can I do? Obviously there's a million answers, but I think the biggest thing when like looking down the barrel at like the rise of fascism is just like, do not comply in advance. Like, don't bend to, like, don't go so far in your self-protective measures that you forget that you have a voice and you have power, and everyone has the ability to talk to their neighbors, talk to their local businesses, to organize, to be like a force for change. And part of not complying in advance is if it's not illegal yet, and like Project 2025, yes, that's what they want to implement. Even executive orders, like that still has to be, you know, approved and voted in. Like, don't look at the dumpster fire and be like, well, I can't put it out by myself, so I'm just going to kind of like become a hermit or hide away from the world. I think like it's so tempting to do that, and I want to, but then I'm like, I personally can't live with myself because I feel like being Jewish American, I've spent my whole life also being told, like, being asked, like, if you were in the 1930s, like, what would you be doing?
Yeah.
And I know that sounds really extreme, but like someone just did a Nazi salute in front of the entire world, and people are pretending that didn't happen. And fascism really wants you to not be able to say what you're seeing, like, but you still have free speech and you still can identify it. And I've gone on another rant, but
You
I don't
answered
know.
the question
But
very
that's
nicely.
where I'm standing right now. I'm just like, we're gonna make more gay shit because there's so many people that need it right now, and we're not gonna stop.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, but we're gonna find a way to put it out there, because why shouldn't we be able to?
Yeah. No,
If you haven't
absolutely.
Gotten emotional. Thank you.
I love to be vocal, so I like to like cause a ruckus.
Yeah.
So I won't shut up.
Good, Ella, don't shut up. Piggybacking off of not complying in advance. I don't know if you guys saw the news, but I think it was, God, if I'm sorry to Idahoans if it's not Idaho, but they just entered like a bill that is going to be challenging Obergefell, which is the first start of it making it to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has already basically told us that they will overturn it and turn it back to the states. And going into, you know, off your point of not complying in advance, that is still going to take time. And we can still organize in that time. It's got to go through every level of the court system, which could take years. And in that time, it's like, what are we going to do? I think back to our author interview for Craze, and how we were talking about if shit hits the fan, like what as a community are we going to do, and how we have to step up and step into that space. And just like what you're saying, Rena, where we need to organize, we need to talk to our neighbors. A lot of change does happen on the local level. And, you know, obviously we all want to be a part of the big marches and the big protests and things, but I think people forget about the tiny differences we can make in our local community, and how that is going to have a bigger impact when it comes to things on like the national stage. So yeah, I love what you said about not complying in advance. And these things do take time. Obviously it's, you know, already been like a 30 to 50 year long game, the Federalist Society with Project 25 and everything, you know, but we still do have a little bit of time before things really do fall down a complete stage of fascism, but we are right there as well.
Yeah, my one other little shout out to anyone who's listening and feeling hopeless. I know it might seem depressing to look at things related to the Holocaust right now, but I actually really encourage people to Google righteous Gentiles, because those are non-Jewish people who worked to do any number of heroic things during the Holocaust, that some of them saved hundreds, thousands of people's lives. And I think the most heartening thing about that is that the people who were doing that, they weren't organizing marches of 1 billion people. They were actually mostly being very quiet about what they were doing, but they were doing immensely revolutionary things to save people's lives. And I think it's like actually a really inspiring example of what you can do if you think about what's in your own power and what are you capable of. So
yeah, love it. This is like a really weird segue, but this is the only thing that's happening in my head right now. But I'm like, speaking of righteous Gentiles, Ella,
yes.
I would love to get into a little bit of like how we reconnected, and a little bit of like, I am so interested to hear a little bit about your story, coming from us knowing each other from like an evangelical background. And like we weren't like super close, but we had a lot of mutual friends. We hung out every once in a while. And when I saw your book, and you found our Instagram, I was like, what the heck? Like, How did this happen? So I would love it if you're comfortable sharing,
I
kind of
mean,
telling a little bit about how you got here.
yeah, nothing too crazy. I was just showing Rena videos of Baymax and Winnie. Yeah.
Oh my God.
They're
So
so
Winnie
cute.
is Ella's dog, who was just the sweetest, and Baymax, and teeny tiny little dog. And then Baymax was a mutual friend of ours dog's who's a Bernese mountain dog. So like just
Like
gigantic.
180 pounds or something. And she was
Yes.
like 20 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And they love to wrestle. It was adorable.
So cute.
But yeah, so I was kind of just bopping around LA for a long time since I saw you last. Really decided to focus on writing, and that's how I met Rena. And yeah, I think I don't know, with my own journey of being queer, I am embarrassingly dating a man right now, but he's like a lesbian.
That's okay.
He's a lesbian man. He's like what Leslie.
So it's all good. Don't worry.
If Michael tragically passed, I would never date men again.
You know what?
It's
You gotta
okay.
be.
We love bi girls. We love pan girls. We love.
You gotta be real careful with that reasoning, though, because when I was married to a man, I'd be like, you know, if I wasn't married to this man, I would never date men ever again. And then it just turned out, oh, I don't want to be with this man either. So
Well, that's what I mean. Like Michael's a lesbian, so it's like
Yeah.
it all
It's
works
already
out.
good.
But yeah, so I remember just like dating men in LA, and it was the worst thing ever. And then I was just like, you know, all my roommates were queer, and it was just something I never thought of as being an option for me, I guess. And realizing, you know, I left LA after the writer's strike, or no, before the writer's strike. It was actually before the writer's strike, and it was really great timing for me. Not anybody else, so sorry. But I was like home, and I was just kind of figuring out what my next move was, and doing a lot of self work, you know, and just kind of coming to terms with like, yeah, I think like people other than men are attractive. It's just like as easy as that. And I like have always been a girl's girl, and so it just made a little bit of sense. My mom was like always saying that she thought, one, that I should be a writer, and two, that she thought I was gay. And so she was kind of right. But I didn't like make it public until we published the book. Like I didn't really talk to anybody about it except Rena. I was just like, yeah, I'm a little gay. And she was like, oh, have you told anybody else? And I was like, not really, no. But
oh wow.
it's just like, who cares?
No, for sure. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but like how has that experience been for you since it's fairly new?
I mean, I've always been an ally or whatever. So I've always had
Ally.
yeah, gay friends, and my life has been very gay. So like it's nothing's changed. Like I said, I'm with a man right now and plan to be with him forever and ever. Amen. But I do think like people that aren't men are attractive. So yeah, fuck yeah.
I feel like it's this, you've talked about it sort of like it's this sort of thing where because it's always been true, but maybe you just weren't like articulating or acknowledging it. Oh, it's one of those things that like it makes a lot of things in your life make sense. It doesn't necessarily change everything. It's like, oh, some of the like connective tissue just like appears more. I don't know.
I was always a theater kid, so
yeah,
so obviously gay.
yeah. So yeah, that was my journey.
How can I ask? And we can either.
I want to ask you the same question.
Oh, girl, that's a long story there. Yeah, I think I've talked about my story a little bit or a lot of it on this podcast, but yeah, I was married for like 10 years to a man and then realized like, oh, just kidding. Like, I don't even like men at all. And that was quite, especially like coming from an evangelical background, like I converted when I was 17, which is kind of around the time when I met you, Ella. Um, and did the whole Bible college thing because that's what you're supposed to do, and got married out of Bible college, did the kids, did the very like quote unquote traditional thing, was never happy, just never ever happy. And then, I kind of always knew I liked women. Even when I was like 16, I was like, this is definitely something I am thinking about. I remember like literally being like 12 and 14 when like YouTube came out, and I was just like Googling like girls kissing and being like, what is this? Watching like South of Nowhere on YouTube, which was like the first, like almost like pre-Degrassi, but like queer. I need to rewatch that. I really need to find it just for my own nostalgia. But never once thought like, it just, you don't as a child, like have any foresight. But I do remember being a teenager and being like, oh, like you might be gay and that will make your life hard, right? This is right around the time where Prop 8 was happening in California. And I was always very clued into politics and media and things like that. And just watching the rhetoric surrounding it, to be a teenager struggling with figuring out your own sexuality and then living in a very conservative town and watching the rhetoric play out in front of you, I like to think of myself as an independent thinker, but you're a child and a lot of that will fill your head. So I remember just putting that out of my mind and being like, no, like that's just not a thing. And then meeting our mutual friends that we have in common and my ex-husband now, and being converted and being like, this is perfect. I don't need to deal with any of it now because I got my life on lock. And, going through that time, and then, the pandemic hits, and actually okay, hold on, back up. Pre-pandemic, very cliche. After I had Ava, my oldest daughter, fell in love with my best friend. So I'm like married, but like in love with my best friend, have a little thing there. And just, yeah, it was a whole thing. I'm not going to get into that. We can go for coffee and get into that one. And then reaching out to actually my Bible college's librarian. So that's, again, a whole different story there. And she was just like, oh yeah, me too. Like similar story. And I was like, shut the fuck up. Okay. We met and I know, I mean, obviously. And she was actually probably like saved my life, honestly. And, gave me a lot of resources, gave me a lot of information, and was like, you can stay in your marriage or you can leave it. Like, you don't have to, and I was also struggling with my faith at the time, being like, my faith says that this is like a punishable by hell, sin, and just, going through that entire rabbit hole. But kind of breaking away a little bit from the evangelical faith helped me embrace my true self, and eventually ended up, getting the courage. I give my daughters a lot of credit in like getting the courage to like leave, because how can you ask your children to live true to themselves if you're not going to live true to yourself, right? So, and luckily my ex-husband is kind of he's a good guy, and he understood and was like, well, that's that. Like, how can I ask you to be someone you're not, right? And so we've been very amicable, but I, got involved in LA in the queer community. Absolutely love everything about our community, where I met Haley. And yeah, it's so funny because my family's like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're gay. You're so much happier now. And that's really been like such a beautiful thing to experience, because when people around you can see that you're living your true self, I think it gives them license and the courage to be themselves as well, which I also think is an act of rebellion and protest in the current state of which we live. So that's why, we can't hide. We have to be a voice. We have to be visible to other people to know that it's okay. To the 16-year-old girls who are going, wow, I think I might be gay, and look at what's happening. They're banning the pride flag in all government buildings right now, right? So how can maybe I should just stay straight. Maybe I should just have my life on lock and not worry about it. And to me, it almost killed me. So it's nice to be a visible presence for other people. And it's nice to get feedback from other people being like, oh my God, like we love this for you. So that's a little bit, Ella, my side of things, since we haven't spoken in, 10 years.
Well, I mean, we've been following each other on social media and everything. So I've seen bits and pieces of the journey. I just didn't have all the connective tissue. So you were always yourself, you were always you, but it's really lovely to see that you've found how to be even more of yourself. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes
sense to me. My Aquarius rising and your Aquarius sun are on the same page. Haley is always so embarrassed of me when I take it to that level.
I'm not embarrassed of you. I just don't know what's going on.
Okay, now wait. We hear Haley's signs?
I am a Taurus sun, and I don't know anything else.
Sagittarius moon,
and we don't know my rising because I don't know when I was born.
Which she needs to get her birth certificate so I can run the data.
Okay, well, I love Tauri. I have many Tauri.
Tauri.
I love that word. Lauren tells me that I am... what did you say I am?
A Disney princess?
No, the planet.
Venus. She's very Venusian.
Venusian, yeah. So when people ask me to describe myself, I tell them I'm Venusian, but I don't know what that means.
I'm very Venusian as well.
I know,
when
right?
people ask me to describe myself, I say Calipigian.
Calipigian. Do you know what your Aquarius, like kind of the hallmark of your sign is?
What is it?
You're like the alien of the zodiac.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is very, I mean, in a very good way.
Yeah, she's very, very strange.
Yes. In the best way. But they're also like the humanitarians. They care a lot about community. They care a lot about the world. Okay, so let's get back to the book since we just spent like 30 minutes not talking about the book. Haley had a really good question, which is, so Ella, you wrote a lot of Joe's character, right? No, opposite?
Yeah.
Opposite, Joe, Ava. Really? See? Okay, well, me reading this book, I had it completely wrong then because you're a photographer. So I figured you were writing Joe.
Well, the original, so she worked on a photo truck in LA. So like we said, the original straight script was all Ella years ago. So that is where the genesis of it came from.
Okay.
But yeah, and I mean, ultimately we edited everything together. We both rewrote big swaths of both characters. So, it was a joint effort. But in terms of the initial novel draft, I was Joe and she was Ava.
And we just kind of switched. Yeah.
And I haven't been a photographer, but I was like a freelance videographer. So I at least had some like, I know a camera.
Yeah, perfect. What was
the vision of the truck?
I love that. You worked for a photo truck?
Yeah.
That's cute.
Driving around LA. It was an old truck. And yeah, that shit was rough. It was very cool, but very, very fragile.
Oh no. Yeah. What was your guys' like favorite part of writing these characters, either individually or together? What did you like the most?
For me, I think it was kind of fun. I had been with these characters for years, but they really changed drastically. And this version of Ava, kind of coming to her and realizing like, oh, she's definitely on the autism spectrum, like, and kind of working with Rena on that and just being like, it looks different on everyone, right? Everyone's journey is different, but Ava's felt like very apparent to us. And I think when someone is diagnosed late in life, it really gives you a grasp of who you are, you know, things like Rena was saying earlier about being queer, like you get this lens of, oh, well, that makes sense now, you know?
Yeah. That did feel like an important thing that wasn't originally in, you know, the like Hallmark movie script or even originally in the novel, but it was something that we were sort of like dancing around. Like we had always spoken about it, even at script stage, we had talked about like just like where does all of Ava's like complexity and difficult relationships and sort of getting misunderstood, like where does it sort of stem from? Like what is she dealing with that people don't know about? And we talked about like her being neurodivergent and on the spectrum, but we also for a while we were like maybe that's just something for us to know about that informs how we write her character. And then we actually had our book editor, without us ever floating it to her, she brought it up in our first like big review, and sort of just said like, I'm really picking up on like that maybe Ava's on the spectrum, but I'm wondering if there's a reason why you don't want to bring it up. And I think I felt really hesitant because I felt like people have such a there's just so much stigma and like misconception about especially like autism in women
and just preconceived notions of what it should look like.
Yeah, and I didn't want to contribute in any way either to people having any more misconception. Like I didn't want it to feel like, I don't know. Yeah, it was complicated. But then we were just it's that conversation between Ava and her mom, I think, was like ended up being kind of a really important part of the book coming together for us, because it's sort of just like, I don't know, we were like, Ava does need to, this is knowledge that like she deserves to have in the book, and maybe it will help someone else to include it. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, sorry if you hear snoring.
It's Murray, my dog. He's snoring loudly right behind us.
We can't hear it. You guys just look like you're looking at the planet behind you.
Looks like this. Okay, little planet.
He's insane.
I love knowing that.
Really scary, honestly. He's an
It's
alien.
really scary.
What was your favorite part of these characters? Like, what do you admire about them?
You know, I love that they both speak their mind, because that's what I like to do. Yeah, like Rena and I had this conversation yesterday about how people in your life can kind of tell you you're one thing and then just kind of figuring out that you're another. And I really love that about Ava's journey, and even Joe's journey a little bit.
Yeah. She's a little stuck in sort of this narrative stagnance about her own life after her father's death, where she's just kind of keeping his legacy alive, and she's sort of like serving her purpose in her community, but like she's not really doing anything too active for herself either. And I think Ava sort of awakens like an indignance in Joe that then forces her to grow as well. But to answer your previous question though, too, because yeah, I think writing like Ava's sort of autism diagnosis, whatever we want to call it, was like a big thing for us. And then I also just really love writing the history of Harmony Springs, because I love history. I also got to do like a lot of research about queer American history that I got to sort of pepper in there. And it was just fun to like, we sort of worked our way backwards, because that hadn't been part of the script either. It was like, well, we need to end up in a town that's like very gay and very Christmassy. How the fuck did we get here? And like, you can kind of do anything you want within the confines of like reality. And I don't know, it was just just sort of like make that up.
Like, what if everyone is actually just gay?
All the way down through history.
All of them. All of them in this town. And Rena was like, yeah, I would live there. And I was like, yeah, I would too. And so all of this is really just like an advertisement for our future commune.
Love it. I'll live there.
When you have the merch on, I am noticing that you both have on Harmony Springs sweatshirts. We have 2 different designs.
Very engaged every season, every day.
Love it.
Oh my
And
God,
I
I love
also
that.
see you have on a lesbian book club hat or a queer book club hat.
Yeah, she copied me.
Ella got this, not this exact one, but she got this hat in Florida. And then she said, oh, when I go back to this bookstore, I'll get you one. And she never went back. And then I found it at a bookstore yesterday and I got my own.
Yeah.
It's so cute. Is it corduroy?
Yeah, it's corduroy. I've never had a corduroy.
I love that. We should make merch, Haley. Or I should say lesbian book club. And it should be like before we get off topic though, talking about queer history, like what was kind of your favorite thing, Rena, to learn through, because I'm also a big history fan. I love queer history as well. Did you come across some things that you were like, oh, I'd love to talk about this, or I'd love to point this out in your research?
Yeah, I mean, like there's so much that like didn't get included, but I'll just say like I think the coolest thing, this is like sort of broad, but the coolest thing about researching like in the 1930s in America was like I hadn't totally picked that it was all going to happen in California and the gold rush in LA and whatnot. So I was looking around at a lot of different stuff and just I think I went to a Wikipedia page of like the gay bars in America and just looking at when different ones were founded. And I think realizing that, I mean, history is way gayer and queerer than the people that write our history books would have us believe. And it could feel, I was worried, I think at first when I started writing the history of Harmony Springs, that it was going to feel like anachronistic somehow by being so gay. And then as I was doing research, I was like, that's super dumb. Like, there were literally gay people all over the place doing gay things, gathering, being queer. Like they're documented, you know, and it's just not part of like our mainstream narrative of like the history of this country. But I do think it's a good reminder that we have been here the whole time and we're going to keep being here the whole time.
Yeah. So, have you guys read Craze?
No.
Wait, you guys have you read Learned by Heart?
No. Should we add that to our queue?
I will. It's Ann Lister, but it's from the perspective of the girl that she dated when she was in boarding school.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I am a huge Ann Lister like fan. It's like my favorite show. Gentleman Jack is my favorite show on the whole planet. Which is funny. Now. Okay. Yes, I will read it. But also what's funny about that is, we, Margaret Vandenberg, she's like a queer history, amazing documentarian, author. And we had her on the podcast too. And she loved talking queer history. And her book is set like right in the 1930s. So it's really good. I'm going to always plug it because I'm just like, it's the best book. I have your guys' book right here too. Okay, great. What's next for you guys? What's in the works? What do you guys have going on? How can we support you guys?
We are currently writing a silly little novel / novella / we don't know what it's really gonna end up being right now, on Wattpad called My TikTok Spy.
And that's funny.
We think so.
I saw TikTok
Red Note.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I saw TikTok today being like, really feeling like my spy is white now.
Oh yeah, we're completely off TikTok.
We're off TikTok.
You guys are better people than I am.
You know, we also, it's like we have a company now. We have registered our LLC. Like we are CEOs, and that means we're bad. So
we're trying to be slightly less bad.
Have to be less bad, or at least pretend be very vocal about it, that we are pretending to be less bad than the other CEOs.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
which
funny.
Is again why we're starting a commune.
But anyway, we've been releasing like, you know, a few chapters a week, I guess. I mean, we're still at the beginning of this, but on Wattpad, but you can also find us on Red Note at Smoke Show. And Yeah, so that's been sort of like a fun exercise, like where they're very short chapters. It is a sapphic rom-com, of course, and a little bit of a spy thriller. But simultaneous to that, we are also writing our next like novel, which guess what? It's a lesbian romance.
Okay, I mean, I was gonna go off
What?
We thought we'd try something a little different.
We need more of that type of media, so please keep writing it for us and we will read it.
On it. It's really fun. We're not going to say too much, but it is part of another series that we are starting. Although I will say, I think most of what we write exists in the world where Harmony Springs exists, at least.
Yeah.
So occasionally there will be some little crossovers even between like different series that we're starting. But it's going to be really fun and really romantic and
very romantical.
Very romantical. And that's pretty much all I can tell you.
We'll take it.
Stay tuned.
I want to say I'm excited for that. And someone's been weed whacking outside my window, so I've been muted. But I want to leave you guys with another compliment. As we kind of, I feel, are
becoming
the end. So you did this so well, and I hear you saying crossover characters, and one of my favorite parts of this book was the little sidekicks we had going on, the little romances, and I would be so excited to see them in the future. But you did a really excellent job of taking real life scenarios that are not just Christmas oriented, like meeting the family and meeting friends and getting kind of like settled into one another's communities and one another's routines and space, and like understanding the world and the life of another person. Both of these characters like had to go really far out of their comfort zones to do that, and I just want to applaud you guys for that. It was just very, very well done. There was a lot of missteps that they each had to go through, but in the process of them doing that, I definitely fell in love with their two little best friends there. So anyway, I'm just making a pitch for seeing them in your future work.
Your pitch is among many similar pitches. We have heard you. There will be another Harmony Springs book pretty soon. So stay tuned. You said seriously.
Okay. We're gonna try and read between the lines there.
But it's not the only one that will be coming. So
yeah,
we love Harmony Springs. We know everybody else loves Harmony Springs, so we're gonna keep Harmony Springs in.
Keep hanging there, yeah.
Love
Perfect.
it.
Love
We
that.
have to sell the merch, you know?
Yeah. You gotta keep the merch going.
It's so cool. Yeah. Can't let it
Our
go away.
entire business is based around our merchandise.
As it should be.
Really just love making merch.
We do. We're barely writers. We just really want to make hats mostly.
Thank you guys all for listening. Haley, any final thoughts?
No, just thank you guys for talking to us. This was a gift to be able to talk to you.
Oh, it was so fun. We'll be back anytime. It's a great excuse to not write.
Yeah. I love that we didn't wait for the last hour. Really
yes. Yapping is superior to writing.
Yeah, if we're awake, we need to be doing something to further our communal purpose.
Right.
Perfect.
So this counted. Rena was lucky that this counted. And we'll be immediately getting back to work.
Yep.
We'll get back to work because we want to read it. So yeah. Okay, thank you guys. We will see our audience next week. Bye.
Bye everyone.